Imagine you're driving this state-of-the-art sports car.
Okay, I like where this is going.
Right. So you're on a perfectly smooth, like completely endless stretch of asphalt. The engine is humming. You are accelerating way faster than you ever thought possible.
Just pure, limitless innovation.
Exactly. But then, without warning, the road just completely ends.
Oh, yikes.
Yeah. The asphalt turns into deep gravel, then, I don't know, thick mud, and finally just a solid brick wall.
That is a harsh stop.
It really is. The car is still technically capable of doing, 200 miles an hour, but the physical environment simply will not allow it to move another inch.
Right. The environment itself is the bottleneck.
Yes, and that collision between theoretical speed and cold, hard reality is exactly where we find ourselves today. So, welcome to our latest deep dive.
Glad to be here.
We are pulling from a really massive stack of sources today. It's anchored by this incredibly comprehensive morning briefing from the Daily Tech Reader, and that's dated August 8th, 2026.
And I've got to say, it is a dense briefing. I mean, we are looking at a huge cross-section of global markets, environmental disruptions, and, of course, artificial intelligence.
There is a lot to get through.
There really is. And our mission today is to help you, the listener, basically cut through the sheer volume of that news and find the hidden connective tissue.
Make sense of it all.
Exactly. And the underlying theme today, which I think you framed perfectly with that sports car analogy, is accountability and friction.
Accountability and friction. I like that.
Yeah, we really want to understand what happens when this rapid, totally frictionless innovation violently collides with real-world physical, environmental, and legal boundaries.
Okay, let's unpack this. We have to start in the digital realm because the entire conversation around AI just seems to have shifted overnight.
It really did. It's like a totally different vibe now.
Right. Like, we aren't really talking about what AI can theoretically do anymore. The sudden panic in the tech sector, it's really about who is liable when it actually breaks things.
This is a huge shift.
It is, because if an overeager human intern accidentally deletes the company database or, clicks a phishing link, you know exactly who to blame.
Yeah, you fire the intern, maybe you reprimand the manager.
Exactly. But if an autonomous AI agent does it while you're asleep, who gets sued?
Yeah.
The software company or the boss who turned it on.
Right, and what's fascinating here is that we are watching the entire tech industry transition from a highly subsidized move fast and break things playground into a mature, heavily scrutinized sector.
The playground is closing.
It's closing fast. Liability is the new bottleneck. And you can see the catalyst for this panic right in the briefing.
Oh, with OpenAI, right.
Yeah. They recently had to pause parts of their Astra development. The model was identifying and exploiting critical cybersecurity vulnerabilities with very limited human assistance.
Wait, I want to pause on that for a second. What do you mean by exploiting? Well, because, a lot of software can scan a network and say, hey, your firewall is outdated. What is this model actually doing mechanically that crossed the line?
That is the critical distinction, actually. Yeah. It wasn't just running a diagnostic scan and handing a report to a human.
Okay.
The autonomous agent was actively simulating a breach.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was finding a backdoor, trying different digital keys, recognizing when an exploit failed, pivoting, and attempting secondary attacks.
Just on its own.
Entirely on its own. It was trying to move laterally through the system. It was acting like an actual human hacker, independently stringing together complex actions to achieve an overarching goal.
Which is deeply unsettling if you're an enterprise company relying on these systems to be secure.
Highly unsettling.
And the briefing notes, this isn't even isolated to OpenAI. There have been recent breaches involving autonomous agents from Anthropic and Meta as well.
Right, and that creates a massive legal gray area. Under current contract and tort law, if an autonomous model performs an unauthorized action without direct, step-by-step human instruction,
the courts just don't know what to do.
They really don't. They don't know who is responsible. Is it negligence? Is it a breach of contract?
It's a mess.
It is. Do you blame the developer who trained the neural network, the deployer who hosted the API, or the end user who just typed in a vague prompt like, optimize my network?
And because of that massive legal exposure, the enterprise market seems to be hitting the brakes hard.
Yeah, the money's drying up a bit.
The briefing mentions corporate AI programs are suddenly struggling to demonstrate enough productivity gains to justify their astronomical computing costs.
They can't just throw money at it anymore.
No, companies are demanding defined objectives. And, more importantly, They want accountable human owners before they deploy anything.
They need a human neck to wring if things go sideways.
Exactly.
The era of endless, consequence-free experimentation is definitely closing, and you can see the financial friction kicking in,
Well,
too.
like with Alibaba.
Yeah, Alibaba is preparing to charge heavy users of its new open-source system. That signals a really harsh shift towards strict monetization.
Free rides are over.
The computing power required to run these autonomous models is just too expensive to give away for free anymore.
Well, that brings up a huge political divide on how to handle this accountability crisis. The debate is really fracturing between those who want enforceable, strict AI requirements and those pushing for voluntary industry standards.
Right, you have federal officials trying to work with AI labs on voluntary government cybersecurity evaluations.
Just sort of asking nicely.
Pretty much. But on the other side, President Trump is actively opposing congressional rules on this.
And we should state his reasoning on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Just sticking to the facts here.
Hmm.
His stated position is that stringent federal regulations would prevent American developers from competing on the global stage.
Right.
He feels it would essentially hand the advantage to other nations. So the political system is completely deadlocked.
Between needing safeguards to prevent rogue agents and avoiding regulations that may throttle the industry's growth.
Exactly. It's a massive tug-of-war.
I want to challenge something here, though. We keep talking about the digital realm and legal friction, but there is a very physical reality to this.
Oh, absolutely.
I have a real pet peeve about the terminology the industry uses. We always call it the cloud.
Right, the cloud.
It sounds light, invisible, weightless, but it isn't a cloud. It is massive warehouses of steel, concrete, rare earth metals, and billions of gallons of water.
It's extremely heavy, physically speaking.
So could the physical limitations of planet Earth actually throttle AI progress before the software ever maxes out?
The short answer to that is a definitive yes. The resource tension is just staggering right now.
How bad is it?
Well, to give you a sense of the scale, Big Tech's future data center leases have now exceeded $1 trillion.
1 trillion. With a T.
With a T. We are looking at a hardware arms race that is purely physical. For example, look at the materials company Kingspan.
What do they make?
Insulation. And they just raised their profit forecast simply because the surge in data center construction has created this insatiable demand for their specialized insulation.
Just to keep the buildings temperature controlled.
Yep. Meanwhile, you've got AMD aggressively expanding to compete with NVIDIA. They're making major acquisitions, like buying the specialized chip developer Telalis.
Insulation and chips are one thing, but actually building these physical monuments to computing power is running into serious geographic friction.
The locals are not happy.
Not at all. Look at Google. They proposed a $15 billion data center in India, and it is facing immense pushback from local communities.
Huge protests, yeah.
The primary fights are over water use and wildlife impacts.
We really have to look at the mechanics of why these facilities need so much water.
Yeah, break that down.
Well, these new AI chips run incredibly hot, much hotter than traditional servers. To keep them from literally melting, data centers pump massive amounts of water through evaporative cooling systems.
So it's basically a giant radiator.
Exactly. A single facility can consume millions of gallons of water a day.
Millions.
Yeah.
Every day.
Every single day. You can't just drop that kind of infrastructure into a region that might already be facing seasonal drought conditions without, severe community backlash.
No, of course not. And even if you manage to secure the water rights, you still have to power the facility.
Which is a whole other nightmare.
The briefing notes tech companies are desperately pursuing nuclear, renewable, and natural gas supplies. But the environment is actively pushing back there, too.
It is a brutal feedback loop. Like right now, a severe European heat wave is reducing both nuclear and hydroelectric output.
Wait, walk me through that. How does a heat wave stop a nuclear reactor? I thought they were totally independent of the weather.
You would think so, but it all comes back to cooling. Nuclear plants rely on local rivers to cool their reactor cores.
Okay.
When there is a severe heat wave, two things happen. First, the river levels drop. Second, the water temperature itself rises.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. If the river water's already too warm, it literally can't absorb enough heat from the reactor.
So what happens?
The plant is forced to power down to prevent a meltdown.
Wow.
At the same time, those low water levels mean hydroelectric dams lose the flow they need to spin their turbines.
That is wild. So the extreme heat that these computing facilities are indirectly contributing to.
Is literally cutting off the power they need to operate.
That is quite the paradox. And that environmental reality leads us directly into the human toll happening across the globe right now.
Yeah, it's not just a theoretical problem anymore.
No, the extreme weather isn't just an inconvenience for server farms. The briefing details a truly devastating helicopter crash in Utah. It involved a Sikorsky S-64.
Those are massive.
Yeah, it's one of those heavy-lift choppers used to drop water on wildfires. It crashed while fighting the Weymouth 2 fire, and tragically, 2 crew members were killed.
The details of that tragedy really highlight the compounding nature of these disasters.
How so?
Well, the crash occurred in such remote, rugged terrain that the wreckage actually ignited a completely new fire.
Oh.
Yeah, it heavily complicated the rescue and containment efforts. That Weymouth 2 fire alone has burned over 105,000 acres.
And the human cost just keeps mounting. A bulldozer operator was also killed working on containment in Oregon.
It's devastating.
Yeah.
And it isn't just the people on the front lines either.
No, not at all. The briefing cites the statistic that wildfire smoke contributes to roughly 1.5 million deaths globally every single year.
It's staggering.
It's essentially global secondhand smoke. A fire in one state or province is literally poisoning the lungs of someone living thousands of miles away.
The underlying mechanics of that smoke are what make it so lethal.
Yeah.
We are talking about PM 2.5 microscopic particulate matter.
The really fine stuff.
Exactly. These particles are so incredibly small, they bypass the body's natural defenses in the nose and throat. They cross the alveolar barrier in the lungs, and they enter the bloodstream directly.
That sounds horrible.
It is. When massive wildfires burn, they launch these organic compounds and toxic gases high into the upper atmosphere.
And the wind just takes them.
Right, the jet streams carry them across entire oceans. Research shows this specific type of smoke can be substantially more harmful than conventional urban car pollution.
Really? Worse than car exhaust.
Much worse. It triggers severe asthma and cardiovascular events in communities that, frankly, never even see the flames.
That is terrifying. And while the West is dealing with all these fires, the East is facing entirely different extremes.
Very different, yeah.
Typhoon Dolphin just struck Okinawa in Japan. It injured 6 people and cut power to 50,000 buildings.
And it's currently forcing massive port closures in China, too.
Right.
Yeah.
At the exact same time, Phoenix just experienced 2 Category 5 haboobs.
You had to look that one up.
Yeah. If you are unfamiliar with a haboob, it is a massive, miles-wide wall of dust.
Like out of a movie.
Exactly. They happen when severe thunderstorm downdrafts act like a giant fan. The wind hits soil that has been completely loosened by extreme, prolonged drought and just blasts it into the air.
Interestingly, amidst all this extreme weather, NOAA is actually projecting a below-average Atlantic hurricane season this year.
Which sounds like good news, finally.
It is, but the mechanism behind that forecast is equally disruptive. Strengthening El Niño conditions are increasing wind shear over the Atlantic.
Hold on, break down wind shear for me. What is the wind actually doing to stop a hurricane from forming?
Okay, so think of a hurricane like a giant spinning top.
Okay, got it.
For it to maintain its structure and gain strength, the winds at the surface of the ocean and the winds high up in the atmosphere need to be moving in the same direction.
And roughly at the same speed.
Exactly. But wind shear happens when you have winds at different altitudes moving at wildly different speeds.
Or even in opposite directions.
Yes. So as the storm tries to build vertically, the high-altitude winds effectively decapitate it.
Oh, wow.
They tear the top of the storm off before the system can actually organize.
So the exact same climate pattern disrupting global weather everywhere else is simultaneously saving the Atlantic coast.
Pretty much.
The briefing mentions we are using AI to accelerate the analysis of all this environmental data, crunching satellite feeds to predict these events.
That's just super helpful.
But it specifically notes that human specialists are still absolutely required to validate the forecasts.
They have to sign off on it.
Right. The AI might spot the pattern, but a human has to make the actual life or death call to evacuate a city, which loops right back to our liability problem.
Nobody wants an algorithm legally responsible for a bad evacuation order.
Exactly. And all of this physical and environmental disruption inevitably bleeds into global trade.
It creates intense economic friction.
Geopolitical tensions are threatening to choke off the shipping routes that aren't already closed by typhoons. The Strait of Hormuz is a prime example.
Tensions are very high there.
Iran and Oman are currently negotiating rules that could restrict ships they deem hostile.
which is prompting regional Sunni governments to pursue joint defense arrangements.
Yeah, and just the uncertainty of that political friction was enough to push Brent crude oil up more than $1 a barrel.
The global supply chain operates on incredibly thin margins.
It's so fragile.
Extremely. When you layer geopolitical brinkmanship on top of environmental disasters, the economic costs compound rapidly.
So what does this all mean for the economy back home? Because the briefing gave us a piece of data that feels like a massive paradox.
The jobs report.
Yes. The U.S. economy unexpectedly lost 23,000 jobs in July. Plus, there were substantial downward revisions to the job numbers for May and June.
Not great numbers.
Not at all. The labor participation rate dropped, and the unemployment rate went up to 4.1%.
Right.
Here is my question. If you or I lose our jobs, we don't throw a party. Why is Wall Street popping champagne when the real economy loses 23,000 jobs?
It is the ultimate bad news is good news paradox.
Make it make sense.
To understand it, we really have to look at the mechanical relationship between the stock market, central banks, and the cost of debt.
Okay.
Over the last couple of decades, the stock market has become deeply, deeply dependent on cheap borrowing.
Meaning low interest rates.
Yes. When institutional investors saw that weak employment data, they didn't mourn the weakening consumer economy. They immediately looked at the Federal Reserve.
Meaning they assume the Fed will step in to fix it.
Exactly. A weakening labor market historically forces the Federal Reserve to lower interest rates to stimulate the economy.
Okay, I'm following.
So investors immediately began betting on a rate cut in September. When interest rates drop, the yield on safer investments, like government bonds, goes down.
Right.
So capital starts flowing out of those bonds and pours into the stock market looking for better returns.
Because they can't get yield anywhere else.
Right. Furthermore, lower interest rates mean it becomes drastically cheaper for massive corporations to borrow billions of dollars.
And what do they do with that cheap debt?
They use it to expand, or very often to just buy back their own stock.
Which artificially inflates the share price.
Exactly.
Let me make sure I have this straight. The S&P 500 closed at a record high, specifically because a weakening job market guarantees cheaper debt for corporations. The market values a lower borrowing cost more than it values a healthy, employed consumer base.
In this specific macroeconomic cycle, yes. The promise of cheap liquidity is totally outweighing the reality of a slowing real-world economy.
Wow.
The financial friction is completely decoupled from the lived experience of the average worker right now.
Which feels incredibly alienating if you are the one losing your job while the markets hit record highs.
It's very frustrating for a lot of people.
And I think that alienation tees up our final thread perfectly. Whether we are looking at a paradoxical economy, a chaotic climate, or unaccountable AI agents, it all boils down to a fundamental crisis of trust.
Trust is everything.
It is. Who has the authority to make the rules, and how transparent are the institutions enforcing them? The briefing includes 3 seemingly random stories that all share this exact same DNA.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it is clear we are living in an era where verifiable trust is the most valuable commodity.
Because nobody trusts anyone anymore.
Exactly. People are demanding transparency from every level of authority. For instance, take the story about immigration and customs enforcement, or ICE, introducing body cameras for their officers.
On paper, that sounds like a massive step toward accountability.
It does, but it is facing intense and immediate criticism.
Why?
Because the agency is retaining complete unilateral discretion over whether that recorded footage will ever actually be released to the public.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, it is the illusion of transparency without actual oversight. The public is basically asking, what good is a camera if the person wearing it gets to decide if the footage ever sees the light of day?
That is a very fair question. And you see that same tug-of-war oversight at the absolute highest levels of government, too.
The White House story.
Yeah, there is a dispute over the White House ballroom. An appeals court just ordered President Trump to halt a $400 million construction project for a new facility.
A massive project.
Huge. And the court's ruling stated that a president is just a temporary occupant of the office. Therefore, he cannot fundamentally alter the historic building without direct congressional authorization.
Right. And to report the facts on both sides impartially here.
Yes, of course.
President Trump responded by calling the court's decision a national security threat.
Okay.
He argues the facility is an absolute necessity for security and official events, and his administration plans to appeal it directly to the Supreme Court.
While preservationists argue that major alterations to a public monument require public review.
Right. It is a fundamental legal debate over who holds the ultimate authority to alter a public institution.
And this breakdown of trust isn't just federal. It reaches down to the most intimate local community levels.
The Chicago story.
Yeah, the briefing mentions a horrifying story out of Chicago where a funeral home is under federal investigation. Authorities discovered the remains of 56 people improperly stored and actively decomposing.
Just a horrific breach of trust.
Truly. But when you step back, you see the thread. From a presidential ballroom to immigration body cameras to a local funeral home, this is a massive society-wide tug-of-war over who is watching the watchman.
It is a profound web of friction. In a world full of AI deepfakes, complex macroeconomic maneuvers, and institutional opacity, the baseline expectation of trust has just evaporated.
It's gone.
Yeah. Understanding how these systems interact, how legal liability, physical constraints, and public trust all push against the speed of innovation is crucial.
Exactly, because when you see how the cost of data center installation is linked to AI capabilities,
Right.
or how El Niño wind shear dictates the safety of global shipping, you are so much better equipped to navigate your own decisions.
You avoid information overload by recognizing the patterns.
Yes. You aren't just reacting to isolated headlines, you are seeing the entire board.
Well said. And as we wrap up today, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over, circling back to our opening conversation about AI.
Okay, lay it on us.
We are moving rapidly toward a world where AI agents act completely autonomously. Very soon, we might see an algorithm negotiating its own data center leases to secure its own power supply.
That's entirely possible.
Or trading corporate stocks based on the environmental weather patterns it is analyzing in real time.
It's probably already happening.
Right. So at what point does our legal system have to recognize an algorithm as a corporate entity? If an AI can legally sign a contract for $1 billion data center, who goes to jail when it breaks that contract?
Man, that is the brick wall at the end of the smooth track right there.
Sure is.
The sports car of innovation is going 200 miles an hour, but the physical and legal reality is rushing up to meet it.
Brace for impact.
Truly. Well, thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. We encourage you to keep digging into these sources, keep questioning the friction in the systems around you, and as always, keep looking for the connective tissue. We'll see you next time.